Day 11, and in today's video I want to talk about launching, because I think that's something that I've been doing pretty well. I've launched things, they haven't always worked in the long term, but the launch has always been going pretty well, I think. So and I think there are some tricks to it, so that's what I want to talk about today. One thing I'll say is, like, I think I'm in the trough of sorrow right now with these videos, because there's still like 20 to go, and for what I committed to, and I don't get many interactions with them on Twitter, but they do still get the views. So what I'm kind of hoping is that people still watch them, but I don't really it doesn't feel the same as it did in the beginning. Maybe it's just because the videos have gotten worse. Yeah, so maybe like this one if you watched it. Would be nice for me to know. Anyways, launching. So the first thing I think that's important if you want to launch something is to wait until you have enough traction that the launch is actually going to catch on. And this requires a lot of hard work, basically. You basically want to get all your ducks in a row, and by ducks I mean, like all your launch assets, all the people that are going to help you promote it, because you will need, unless you have like 100,000 followers on Twitter or something like that, you will want a bunch of people with more followers than yourself to help you spread the word, basically. And that's how I launched Reform, and have launched other things as well. And so basically, and I think the best way to do this is to kind of involve them in the process of launching it. So with Reform, the first thing we did was create mock-up of the forms or design the forms in Figma, and we also designed a website with copy on it. And I think overall I sent it to 30 people, and so I sent it to one person at a time, basically. And I sent it the Figma version because then they could add comments directly on the website, and for each of them sort of went through an iteration, changing the copy so it resonated more based on their comments, send it to the next person, took their feedback, sent it to the next person, did that like 30 times, I think. So in the end, the copy was really good on that website, and that just helped so much. And then the other thing was, then when I launched, I had 30 people that felt involved in the whole like launching this thing journey. So they wanted to help me spread the word about it. That's just how it works when people are involved. And then the other thing about it is, if you don't feel that traction when you share it with people, like, so basically if you just launch something that only you have seen or like 2 other people, it's probably not going to work because you probably got it wrong. So that's why you need to show it to a lot of people before you actually launch, both because it's going to help you refine the messaging of the launch, and it's also going to help you get like kind of gather people to help you promote it once you launch, because people get behind you. So and if you don't feel that sort of traction when you show it to people, if you have to defend everything and it doesn't get better when you iterate on it, it's just not ready to launch, basically. Because if you share it to people privately and it doesn't click with them, it's not going to click when you just share it out, in the wider internet. But when you have done this like 30 times and it really starts to click with people when you send it to them, it's going to work on the wider internet as well. At least there's a bigger chance that it will. So that's really important. The next thing is when you launch something, is to try to have something sort of novel, or like a multiplying effect, like something that can go viral or just sort of like catch people's attention. I think there are 2 things we did with Reform that worked really well. The first was that when you signed up, so we didn't have a form builder when we launched it or announced it, right? So we built a form that looked like the forms that our form builder was going to build, and we just hard-coded it in HTML, and we hooked it up to the Netlify form backend. And then we put that on the website, and there was our early access form. But it also said, hey, do you want to try Reform? And while trying it, sign up for our early access list, So that was like sort of clever and different. And then the other thing we did was Twitter Spaces had just come out. I just got access to them like, a couple of days before we launched. And then you know, on the launch day in the evening, Bjorn and I, my co-founder, we were going to kind of, you know, just hang out on Zoom or something, just like chat about how it went and stuff. And I was like, what if we did this on Twitter Spaces and people could join if they wanted to? So we did, and it just blew up. Like at some point there was more than 100 people live on the Twitter Space, which was, you know, a lot, since it literally just launched, and no one, like, it was a lot of people's first space, I think. And it kind of like first Justin Jackson joined and he started talking about it, and I think that attracted Andrew Warner from Mixergy, and he came on, and then on that like Twitter Space, Andrew was like, hey, can I be your first customer somehow? Like, can I just like send you $100 on PayPal and become the first customer? Which he did, and then other people started sending me money just because they wanted like to be an early customer. So I think we got like 4 or 5 customers in that Twitter Space just by people like sending us money. So Andrew Warner is the #1 user ID in the Reform user base today. It's just like really awesome. And you know, that was like also sort of like novel idea, and it had this like, you know, it was a new thing, it was like a trend, and the whole way it worked was that when someone like Justin Jackson came on, his followers could see that he was on there, so that attracted people like Andrew, and then his followers could see that he was on a Twitter Space, so they wanted to see what it was about. And then we just kept telling people like, hey, this is the launch party for Reform, and they signed up for it and stuff. So it just worked really well, and it was a really fun experience, and just created like a lot of like positive kind of energy around the launch. Yeah, so try it, like make sure it's like really polished, you have people behind you, and the other thing is make sure it's sort of novel or like special, or, you know, clever or viral. The other thing I think we did, at least I normally do, is like once people sign up for something, just ask them to tweet about it. You know, it's so easy, and not all people do it, but some will, and you need every little help you can get, all the wind in your back you need. So the last point I want to make is to not just launch one time, because it needs to be a chain reaction of launches. So we've launched multiple times, especially early on with Reform, and that's sort of how we got, you know, our first couple of $1,000s of MRR. Like, we launched the website, then we launched when we actually launched, you know, when we had a product people could sign up for. We launched on Product Hunt, became the #1 product of the week. It's kind of worked in the same way that we, you know, kind of rallied a lot of people behind us. We waited until we had like, you know, 50 customers or something, so they could say nice things about us on there, instead of just like counting on being lucky or something like that. You know, we prepared, and yeah, so we just kept launching, and we launched the Logic features in Reform. And when we did that, you know, we just like on the day I was like, hey, we need to do something special. So we put together like this crazy annual deal, and that made us like $5,000 or something like that. That was like helpful, you know, very early on in the product. And yeah, so, you know, keep launching is the third advice, or the third piece of advice I want to give about launching. Anyways, just like my quick thoughts on launching. If you have any questions or anything you want to talk about, or like tear down or give my thoughts on or something, just let me know on Twitter, and maybe I'll do a video about it. Thanks for watching.